Welcome back, true believers and spectacular Spidey fans, to another really exciting episode of Spider-Man PS4 101, and it is very different today because you're seeing my face. Surprise, and it's because we have already broken down all of the recent Game Informer information that they've been posting on their website, and they've been doing a fantastic job of that. And also in the previous episodes, like the first episode that we did when Game Informer showed their first trailer, I fully reviewed the main aspects of Game Informer that were shown off on Reddit, where they basically put everything on like a nice list that showed all the main points of information that Game Informer, debuted for Spider-Man PS4. Well, today, I woke up and I checked my mailbox, and this was in the mail, waiting for me, and I was freaked out because I saw it, and it's finally here, it's in my hands. This is the closest thing that I have so far to feeling like I actually have the game, is having the Game Informer of it, and just, again, the art by Alex Ross, front, back, and just a full showcase of it. Gorgeous. You can totally see right through the page because it's very light outside, but still, just seeing this Game Informer, reading it, I read the whole thing, and I know for a fact that this game is absolutely going to be a dream come true for Spider-Man fans, and that just showcases all the passion, all the dedication that Marvel games and Insomniac games are putting into this game, knowing that they love Spider-Man just as much as we all do, probably more than we do, and they're going to absolutely deliver a amazing experience. And if you have Game Informer, if you're subscribed to Game Informer, like you have the magazine in your own mailbox, or you just look on their website and you see the entire digital version of Game Informer, you'll know everything already. So this is just me kind of breaking down what the Game Informer is, and specifically breaking down specific things that you may or may not have seen in the full issue of Game Informer. So basically on the Reddit post, it said like main things like Taskmaster, Black Cat DLC, the villains like Electro, Rhino, Scorpion, all that stuff. So they basically go over everything in the Game Informer, and if you've seen other videos, they most likely have covered it. This is going over the really interesting parts that you may have not seen. So basically, the first piece of information that I saw, which you're going to see on screen right now, is, oddly enough, I don't think it was on the digital version of Game Informer, but there's a brand new showcase of concept art for Kingpin. Now, it's nothing big, nothing too serious, just seeing what Kingpin looks like in the game obviously is awesome, and just seeing how he is going to appear in his full Kingpin getup. He looks very similar to Vincent D'Onofrio's version of Kingpin from the Daredevil Netflix series, and he looks awesome. And in the Game Informer, it obviously breaks down the first mission of the game, which I don't want to really talk about since it's a little spoiler-ish, but it's a really great showcase, seeing how Kingpin is the first villain that you fight in the game. We already knew that, and seeing how what happens afterwards is going to be really cool to see how it plays out in the story. And just reading about it just gets me so excited. So that was the main point, and as you saw on screen, the Kingpin concept art looks fantastic. Second thing is about the web shooters. Again, so the web shooters, what we know, of course, is that you have your standard webs and all these gadgets. But it's web shooters, not organic webbing like in the Raimi movies. So people are wondering, oh, are you going to run out of webs? So if you know already, you do run out of gadgets in the game. So there's like a set amount of gadgets that you have, and we saw this in the combat video as well, where it shows off like, oh, you have 3 web bombs, 5 web tripwires, and like you use the spider drone. It probably like has to regenerate after a certain amount of time after you use it to use it again on certain enemies. So those run out. Those are going to run out for sure if you keep using them during combat. Those are going to have to run out, and you have to kind of craft them to have more of them be used in your web wheel, your gadget wheel, and there's probably going to be upgrades to make more slots for more inventory for these gadgets. So like, oh, first you start off with 3 web bombs, then you can upgrade it to 5. You start off with 5 tripwires, you can upgrade it to 10 or something like that. I'm just guessing, but I'm assuming that's how the upgrade system is going to work, where you can have a bigger capacity of your inventory to be bigger for your web arsenal. But with your web shooters, those run out for your gadgets, but for the main web shooters, shooting webs when swinging, those are unlimited. So it's an unlimited amount of supply of webbing for your standard web shooter. So that's another detail in case if you didn't see that, that's what it goes over in the Game Informer. The second little informational tidbit from the really awesome coverage is about kind of the combat in regards to leaving the combat, and also the side activities that appear on the minimap. So of course, Andrew Reiner, who is basically the guy who wrote this entire story for Game Informer, and he basically goes on to saying, oh, if you have a certain amount of thugs that you're fighting, and you want to try and run away from them, you can always retreat and heal yourself manually by pressing down on the D-pad. So, I know this is going to trigger a lot of people, but that's exactly what happened in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's not to say this game is The Amazing Spider-Man 3 or anything. I'm just saying that was an exact feature in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game where you had to press and hold down on the directional pad, and then Spider-Man would wrap a bandage of webbing around himself to heal himself. That's not what they say he does in this game, but basically you have to press and hold down to heal yourself. And then Andrew went on to saying that depleted his focus meter. So apparently there's going to be a focus meter which allows you to heal Spider-Man and also execute the finishing moves. So it's the same meter of like a special meter that you can use when fighting bad guys and stuff. So I find that really interesting. And also retreating back and forth, that's obviously taken from The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and healing is from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where you have to do it manually. Which is weird, because in the E3 2017 gameplay demo, Spider-Man regenerated himself automatically. If you saw in the little, left-hand corner with the health bar, it went from 80% to 100%. Like, it kind of just jumped to regenerate his health. So this, I guess they updated to make it feel like if you want to feel like you are Spider-Man, to feel more connected to fighting, you would try and manually heal yourself. Sorry. So I think that's why they would add that feature, and I'm totally down for it. I think it'd be cool, and I can't wait to see how it's going to be fully used in the game when fighting enemies. And that also goes with the side activities, which is with the mini-map. So of course what we saw in the other trailers and such, we see green backpacks, which are Peter's backpacks that you can go and learn more about the story. And there's also these little purple icons, which it doesn't say what they are in the Game Informer, but one we do know for sure now, actually two, is this little microscope is a Harry Osborn Oscorp research lab that you can go in and investigate, and that's what the little icon is of the little blue microscope. The other one is this red triangle with an exclamation point on it, and those are actually the optional crimes. So like in Spider-Man 2, you can swing around, you see this little gray marker, and you go to it, and that's a little petty crime. It might be a balloon, some thugs, a car chase, someone speeding. So it's like that for Spider-Man PS4, and they're optional. So again, if you want to swing around, you can. You want to go out and get some collectibles, you can do that. If you want to go and do these optional crimes, go for it. And again, like what we already know, but to elaborate on it more, the crimes are going to start off as one thing, and as you progress through the game, it's going to evolve into something bigger. So it can go from a storefront robbery into a car chase, into this cool, fight inside of a bank or something. All this cool stuff happening at once. And those are what those little red exclamation point triangle markers are indicating, and that's really cool. So seeing that you can go swing through the city, do whatever you want, and then go and do these cool missions, just gives you that feeling like, yes, this is like Spider-Man 2 days, like doing seamless side missions, back and forth from free roaming to side mission to main mission, whenever you want. Giving that full player choice is really great to see that that's what they're doing in the game. The next thing, Mr. Negative. So again, even though we know two things, one, that he is not the main villain, even though he's the villain that's been the most, advertised throughout the whole game, is Mr. Negative. He's not the main villain, but two, we do know that, of course, Martin Lee is this nice guy who runs the Fee Shelter in New York City, and also has this kind of evil counterpart of Mr. Negative. We know his powers from the comics. If you read about Mr. Negative, he has, this super strength, kind of, and he has the negative energy to enhance his inner demons and also make himself stronger. What's really interesting, and I'm not too sure if this is from the comics, please let me know if they are, but basically, on the Game Informer, it goes in more depth about Mr. Negative's powers, and how it could be implemented, and how it could be implemented in the main story. I don't know why my throat's dry today, I'm sorry. But basically, it goes on to talking about how he's going to be impacted within the narrative, and I think it's going to be really cool seeing how all of our theories are kind of hinting that Spider-Man may become Negative Spider-Man. He might turn into the, Negative Image Spider-Man, where he becomes like Mr. Negative's henchman. That might happen considering what this says. So basically, if you follow me on Twitter, I've been posting all these little tidbits from the Game Informer that are really interesting to me. And the one thing that I saw is that it says about Mr. Negative, he can corrupt people, giving them negative energy, like what we see with the inner demons. They have like this negative energy in their fists, or drain their life essence to enhance his own powers. So I've never heard of that from Mr. Negative. Let me know if that's from the comics or something, but that's really interesting to see that throughout the game he'll be draining people's energy, kind of like, hopefully similarly to Venom in Ultimate Spider-Man, where he he feeds on people. If Mr. Negative is going to drain people and, like, make them his henchmen, that would be so cool. and that just shows the full extent of how far they're going with this character. And also they say Martin Lee, and the Inner Demons want to destroy the Big Apple, and they're working fast. So again, we don't know why he wants to. We don't know why the Inner Demons are on this huge rampage throughout New York City, but it's really interesting to see that he first starts off as this nice guy, and then it seems like he is going to have the alter ego of Mr. Negative, not knowing that there's two personalities. So it's like the same thing. Eddie Brock knows that he's Venom. When he turned into Venom, he knows he's Eddie Brock. Mr. Negative, Martin Lee, it's a bit different. He kind of has this alternate personality where he doesn't know that he is Mr. Negative. Sometimes it's like that in the comics, sometimes it's not. Sometimes he totally knows he's Mr. Negative. So what I'm getting from that, it definitely sounds like he is trying to fight his dark self. And given that he can drain people's life essence and make people negative, I think that definitely means that Spider-Man is going to turn negative at some point, and that's just going to be really, really cool to see how that plays out in the story, and I can't wait for it. So the next thing is the citizens of New York City. So the citizens of New York City, what we already know is that in Spider-Man PS4, you can go in the city streets whenever you want, talk to civilians, say hi, high-five them, finger gun them, take selfies with them. It's excellent. However, another cool tidbit is that the city is more alive. What we saw in the footage the other day, showing that, oh, people are going to say hi to Spider-Man when he swings by. Look, it's the webhead. They're like, oh, what the heck was that? So it's Spider-Man swinging by? So there's going to be those civilians that are obviously really intrigued with Spider-Man. And then, funny enough, there's going to be other civilians that are like the exact opposite. So there's going to be people who like ignore him blatantly. Like they're going to go out of their way to try and avoid Spider-Man. So like there will be a whole group of civilians. If you go in the middle of the street and you want to go and just say hi to him, you can. And then there'll be some other civilians in that same, standpoint where you go into the city and say hi. Some of them will just run away, or they'll just ignore Spider-Man. Like, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm just going shopping, Spider-Man. I'm just trying to go get my pizza. I don't want to go say hi to you right now. I have to go pick up my kid. I don't want to deal with you. So, like, there's going to be civilians like that in the city, and that's going to be hilarious to see be played out in the game. And I just love that little attention that Insomniac is putting into the game. Airplane flying over my house, of course, as expected. Second to last thing, which I'm really excited about, is the fast travel. So the weird thing is, like, Spider-Man, web swinging, fast travel, like, you would never expect to see fast travel in a Spider-Man game. We know that already, and what we saw in the clips, of course, is that Spider-Man's going to be in the subway, and he can go down the, the staircase to go into the subway, and what we saw in the picture, he's, like, looking at his phone. That's awesome. However, Insomniac have updated, and same with Game Informer, have stated that if you want to keep taking fast travel, it won't just be the same thing of Spider-Man looking at his phone. There's going to be multiple vignettes of animations for Spider-Man to do, and it could also be related to the story. That's what I'm most, interested in. And, I love seeing Spider-Man on the subway and having the civilians not react like, oh, it's just Spider-Man, whatever. That's funny, but I really hope that if you want to take the subway, Peter will be able to. Because Peter Parker gameplay is in the game, MJ gameplay is in the game, fast travel's in the game, and Spider-Man's on the subway, and I find that really cool and funny, but I'm going to be web swinging. So, and seeing how there is a cool incentive of, oh, but if you want to fast travel, there are going to be other animations during the fast travel loading times that you can see, and that's funny. So it could be like, I don't know, maybe Spider-Man is eating a burrito, maybe Peter Parker takes the subway instead of Spider-Man. Maybe while you're on the subway, someone gets mugged, and then you just see a mugging happening, and then you stop it on the subway while you're fast traveling. That would be cool. So, it's good to know that there's going to be a lot of variations implied within something as small as the fast travel, and I'm really excited to see the other animations that are going to be put into it, so that's great. And the last thing is actually about spoilers. Big spoilers. Big spoilers about the beginning of the game. So, if you don't want to learn about that, just skip ahead like a couple minutes. But basically, it's about the really first seconds of the game, and it sounds beautiful to me. Web of Shadows is my favorite Spider-Man game of all time, and you guys know me, the opening with Moonlight Sonata, and the symbiote apocalypse, and Spider-Man narrating after you beat that whole prologue scene about the, it started like 4 days ago, and then it cuts back, a couple days ago to fight Venom. That's my favorite Spider-Man game of all time, and that's mainly why, because of the opening that game has. With this, I find it like the most poetic, cinematic way to start this new take for Spider-Man. Like, some people say this is going to be the definitive Spider-Man game. I agree. I 100% agree. Even though I love Web of Shadows, I think this is going to beat it, and this is why. One of the reasons why is because of the beginning. So to quote it, it says, "The first seconds of the game focus on a black spider twisting and turning as it descends on a thin line of silk in front of an open window backed by vibrant sunlight. And it's so cool seeing it's just like the Raimi movies, you know, in the beginning with the cool, you know, Danny Elfman score and just all the stuff in the nostalgic opening with the webs and stuff and all the font and all that opening is iconic from the Raimi movies 1 and 2 and even 3. And just seeing how they're gonna do something so poetic like that. And someone left a perfect tweet, and I wanna say this tweet because it perfectly encapsulates how I feel about it, and I just find it so beautiful and how he summarized it. So Teddy Zombie Killer, please go follow him. He's awesome. And I tweeted this out talking about this exact plot point in the story, and he says, "That's all I need. A spider, the very creature I'm going to be seeing for the rest of the game. The open window with the constant feeling that someone might need help today. Might need my help today. The sun, showing that even though there is a crime, it's still a beautiful city." That's fantastic. Just Teddy Zombie Killer, you nailed it right on the head. Please go follow him on Twitter. Links in the description. He just nailed it perfectly, and I don't want to get too far into this, the discussion of the beginning of the game because it goes on to Peter's connection with Yuri Watanabe, who of course is Wraith, and, you know, the captain of the police force in New York, and it kind of goes into the first mission of the game with Kingpin and Yuri Watanabe, and the tutorial of the game, which is really, really cool. I don't want to spoil it, though, if you haven't read it, though, but just seeing what Teddy Zombie Killer said about the opening of the game being that poetic, being that cinematic, being that connective to Peter Parker and Spider-Man stories, and seeing how they're going to fully showcase that within the first opening of the game, right off the bat. No exposition like in the Amazing Spider-Man games, no build-up, just boom, right there, you're Spider-Man, go for it. That's so cool, so intricate, and it really connects the audience immediately to this new take of Spider-Man. And, you know, just seeing how these new characters are going to be shown off, like Yuri Watanabe, Mr. Negative, Taskmaster. A lot of people don't really know that much about those characters, and seeing how they're going to be implemented in the Spider-Man game, it's awesome, and I just can't wait for it. But anyways, guys, that was my hands-on overview. I know I just kind of talked in the camera, but those are like the old days of my videos. If you guys know me, that was basically me where I just talked in front of the camera all the time. And I just want to show you this awesome, beautiful Game Informer. I just kissed it because this artwork from Alex Ross is stunning, and I love it to death. Andrew Reiner, who wrote this story, thank you so much for writing this awesome story coverage for Spider-Man. You did an amazing job, and stay tuned on April 16th, where we're going to get an update, I guess, about Peter Parker. I guess Andrew said it's just what we know already and just text about Peter Parker, so like just, you know, descriptions about Peter Parker in the game, but still, it's awesome to know about Peter Parker, and just seeing the intricacies that Insomniac and Marvel are implementing within this version of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and just seeing how fully in-depth they're going with it, it's gonna be great, guys. So anyways, that was another episode of Spider-Man PS4 101, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I know it was very different, but it was just very off the cuff, very simple, and just very fun just reading this as a really awesome page-turner. Again, I never rate anything like magazines. I rate games, of course, if you see my Rate Actor reviews. If I had to rate this story particularly, and how Andrew covered Spider-Man PS4, 10 out of 10. Absolutely 10 out of 10. Fantastic job, beautiful cover art, and just, this game is gonna break me. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Peace out.